You're standing in front of the board. You've rehearsed. You know the numbers. The first question comes from someone you didn't expect about a risk you haven't quantified. In the next 4 seconds, your gap type takes over. The expression gap leader goes internal, processing, calculating, face neutral. The board sees hesitation. The authority gap leader starts justifying, citing data, talking faster, proving. The board sees defensiveness. The context gap leader answers the question precisely, but misses that it wasn't really about the risk. It was a proxy for a trust concern they didn't see coming. The board sees tone deafness. If you recognized yourself in one of those reactions, good. That's the diagnostic at work. Here's the pattern you need to understand. High-pressure situations don't create new presence behaviors. They intensify your defaults. When cognitive load increases, unexpected questions, hostile audience, ambiguity, time pressure, your primary gap type takes over. This isn't a character flaw. It's a predictable, diagnosable pattern that can be anticipated and counteracted, but only if you know what your default is. Otherwise, the first curveball tells everyone in the room your pattern before it tells you. Under stress, you revert. The leader who's been practicing gap-specific exercises for weeks still has a default stress response. The practice doesn't eliminate the default. It gives you a counter move you can deploy before the default takes full control. The leader who's been doing this work has muscle memory. The one who hasn't has only instinct. When the pressure hits, instinct runs unchecked. And in a boardroom, every person at that table can see it happening in real time. Look at the failure modes on screen. Each one is specific and predictable. The expression gap goes further internal. Longer pause, quieter voice, more processing, not less, but the audience can't see any of it. The failure mode is going dark at the moment visibility matters most. The authority gap reverts to proving. The proving leader archetype from Module 1 becomes most visible under pressure. More data, faster pace, longer answers, filling the space with evidence instead of holding it with a position. The context gap answers the question asked, not the question meant. Technical accuracy delivered in a moment that requires political or emotional reading. Correct on the facts, wrong on the room. The expression gap under pressure deserves a closer look. The board asks a question that catches you off guard. The leader who already processes internally goes further internal. The pause gets longer, the face gets more neutral, the voice gets quieter. The irony is worth naming. They're doing more processing, not less. They've already identified 3 dimensions of the question and are weighing the trade-offs of each. But in a boardroom, the audience sees not on top of it or doesn't have conviction. The failure mode is going dark at the exact moment when visibility matters most. The more the leader thinks, the less the room sees. The authority gap under scrutiny is where the proving leader from Module 1 shows up most clearly. The board pushes back. The leader who struggles with structural authority starts proving more data, faster pace, a 12-point answer to a 1-point question. Every challenge met with additional evidence rather than a position. What the board actually needs, a leader who can say, "Here is where I stand," and hold the pause that follows, not more evidence. A position. Filling the space with evidence instead of holding it with a position, that's the authority gap's failure mode at its most visible. The context gap in high-stakes rooms is the subtlest failure mode and often the most costly. The leader faces a room where dynamics are layered, power relationships are complex, and the actual agenda differs from the stated one. They answer the question asked instead of the question meant. In a crisis town hall, they address the operational problem while the room wants emotional acknowledgement, technically accurate in a moment that requires political or emotional reading. And because the answer was factually correct, they often leave thinking it went well. That's the danger. You can miss the room entirely and not know it. This sounds like bad news. It's actually good news. If high stakes moments reveal what's already there, then preparation isn't about rehearsing a performance. It's about knowing your default pattern and having one specific countermeasure ready. Think about the last time you were under real pressure. Not a tough meeting, a moment where the stakes were genuinely high. What did you do in the first 5 seconds? Did you go quiet and internal? Start talking faster and citing data? Answer the question asked instead of the one meant? That default response is your gap type stress signature. If you can name it, you can prepare for it. Now you know your default stress pattern. The question is, what do you do about it in the 5 minutes before you walk into the room? That's the pre-performance protocol, and it's designed around your specific gap type.